Yeah, these leaks, oh boy, this is going to be really interesting.
You better turn around. Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
Yo, what's going on, guys? I hope everyone's having a fantastic day or trying to have a fantastic day. So, the Eagles are out of the playoffs. The Eagles season is over. And obviously, the NFL season is still alive with the playoffs and the Super Bowl still intact right now. But it doesn't mean that this means that the drama is about to start with the Philadelphia Eagles since, this is where things are going to take a turn. We're going to find out a lot more about this team and what's been going on this past year. And there's a lot to talk about, okay, when in regards to Nick Sirianni and the coaching staff in general. And that's my main thing going into this video is this fucking coaching staff. Is this coaching staff regardless? Howard Eskin, had some reports that came out, on, potentially could Nick be fired? There was even a statement from Howard Eskin talking about Bill Belichick. Would this be a possibility of hiring him? And we know Howard Eskin's a very reliable source, very close to the team and what's really going on. Been there for years, obviously. So I think he's a very good, credible source. He talks about how Jeffrey Lurie doesn't like Bill Belichick at all. That this would never even happen. So who knows? I think Jeffrey Lurie either has somewhat of a personal thing for Bill Belichick that he would never get fired. Yeah, Bill Belichick just had an interview with the Atlanta Falcons the other day. I realistically, I don't think he's going to come here. I really don't. But hearing this now, it's definitely not going to happen if Jeffrey Lurie is just not a fan of Bill Belichick at this point, and probably not going to happen. But he had a lot of things to say about Nick Sirianni. Is that the Eagles are not going to make this an emotional decision, and that Nick has a chance of staying with this team this year. That Howard Eskin says that there's going to be a lot of changes within the coaching staff, but Nick seems like the one that's going to be staying. And I just can't even believe that at this point. I think he's lost this locker room beyond. I mean, so bad that AJ Brown didn't even show up to the game. I mean, AJ Brown was going to be out for a playoff game, and he was at a boxing match. I mean, if that's not showing you a message of where this coaching staff is at right now, it's absolutely insane. The players look just they don't look like they want to play football. They haven't the last 7 weeks. The players will try to get excited during the week, and then once they get into these games, this coaching staff just fucking terrorizes these players and just takes a shit on their morale. And the morale just goes down, and the players are not having fun, and everybody's going through the motions at this point. Okay, I think people need to stop putting so much on Jalen Hurts right now. It's been a shitty year. I absolutely know that for a fact. I get Jalen Hurts has had a really bad year, but you can't just make your way through the coaching staff and you can't just put everything on Jalen Hurts. Yes, Jalen Hurts has progression issues. Jalen Hurts audibles to, bad plays, leaves the pocket too early, not patient enough in the pocket, but there's a lot of things that go into why he's playing like this. And yes, he's the one throwing the football. He's the one on the field. He's the one that's getting paid $250 million at the end of the day. I completely get it. There was a leak that came out the other day, even with Tim McManus, to say that, Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni, and Brian Johnson have not been on the same page all season. And then other reports, coming out that here's something that's going to make you seem like, wow, well, no shit. No wonder Jalen Hurts is playing like this. Says in the early stages of the Eagles' skid, Hurts was hoping the direction of the offense would change. The source familiar with Hurts' thinking said, McManus wrote, he believed they were overly reliant on vertical routes and not utilizing short to intermediate throws, particularly over the middle of the field where A.J. Brown has thrived in his career. In short, the belief was there was too much flash over substance, a sentiment others offensive side of the ball shared. And that's really scary. So if Hurts is trying to get the coach's attention and say, hey, we need to change this. We can't just do this play. This isn't going to work. And the coaching staff is just like shooing everybody away and not going to change anything. How is Jalen Hurts is going to play bad? Jalen Hurts is, I mean, you're literally setting up your franchise quarterback for failure at this point. So I don't see how Jeffrey Lurie would have any fucking issue to fire this guy. I really don't. Brian Johnson has 3 interviews. He has another interview with the Panthers. 3 interviews already. Okay? Which Brian Johnson is going to look like the scapegoat. Well, how could Brian Johnson have all these interviews? Well, it's because everybody around the league, every front office member, every executive, every GM around the league knows how the Eagles run shit in their organization. And Brian Johnson has never had 100% Brian Johnson type offense for one game this year. We have not seen a full game of Brian Johnson. We thought it was Brian Johnson beginning of the season, and then turning out that this is Nick's game plan, and everybody kind of piggybacks off of it. But at the end of the day, you give Nick's play calling to Brian Johnson. Brian Johnson calls it, but yet, you lose. The last 7 weeks, his team has looked like shit, and Brian Johnson is just getting interviews at this point. Teams are doing their due diligence. It's an early process. Okay. But if Hurts has had an issue, and there's been issues with Jalen Hurts' body language, and there's been rumors about Jalen Hurts' mindset has been a little different this year. And I think it's because of this coaching staff, because the coaches are not listening to the players. At least with Doug Pearson, we had a leadership council where players as a group would go up to Doug, and he would be open to a collaborative effort between the coaching staff and the players that certain things need to change. Okay, when the first Giants game in 2017, we kicked the 61-yard field goal to win the game. That was the game where Carson Wentz went up to the coach and says, hey, we need to start running the football. And ever since then, we ran the football, and we had a fantastic season. I don't see that with this team where they go up to the coaching staff, say something, and then they start doing it. I mean, 9 carries for DeAndre Swift. They're still doing the same thing. Empty back set, no fullback, no motion, no nothing. Wide receivers are running routes right next to each other, the same route. I swear to God, there was one play, I forgot what quarter it was during Tampa Bay game, where 2 of the wide receivers were literally 2 yards apart from each other, running a comeback route, 2 comeback routes at the same time. The route combinations are taking too long to develop. And when every team in the league is going to blitz the whole kitchen sink at Jalen Hurts, cover 0 blitz, whatever. Every team has done the same thing the last 7 weeks, and the Eagles and the coaching staff has not adjusted to help him. Guys got 2 seconds to throw the ball, and these guys are still downfield running routes at this point. That's why, if everybody wants to put so much blame into Jalen Hurts, I definitely think he's a cause of the season, technically, yes, to be as bad as it is. But behind the scenes, this is what he has to deal with, and this is what the rest of the roster has to deal with horrible coaching, horrible practices that can't even get you prepared. We haven't even been to the defensive side of the ball yet, where I think there's going to be a lot of changes and a lot of things going on. But I can't blame Jalen Hurts for fucking the season up with his play because of what the coaches are not catering to him and not listening to him. And I can believe these rumors. I mean, how many times have they thrown on 3rd and short a bomb downfield? They've done it all year. They've done it bubble screen all year. They have not. And Nick, he has pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed against the front office. That's what it looks like. Because the Eagles made the playoffs, the Eagles weren't going to fire anybody. They were giving Nick a chance to either fucking rise above or drown himself underwater. And he drowned himself underwater. There's no doubt. So these leaks, these rumors, and we want to trash Jalen Hurts so bad. Sure, yes, he's messed up this year. But look at what he has to deal with what he's being told. I don't even know if they sit down and go over what they need to fix every week. I really don't. Because I hear this, Nick has looked dumber and dumber every press conference. It has almost been automatic to the point where I think he looks like a man that's already getting fired. How he reacted in that game the other day against Tampa Bay, he looks like a dead man walking. He looks like a guy that's just like, man, let's just get this fucking game over so I can get fired. And then going to that post-game press conference, he looks so out of it, like he was already told he was relieved of his duties as a head coach. If Nick stays here, it's going to be one of the biggest bad decisions they've made. One of the biggest mistakes they have ever made this season. I don't think the nucleus of your culture has been affected the last 7 weeks, and the coaching staff has not helped. Jeffrey Lurie didn't look appeased by it. Even Howie Roseman in the press box did not look did not look happy. We're going to hear from Howie Roseman probably in the next couple days at the end of the year press conference, and we're going to find out probably a lot more. I know we're not going to hear anything, a lot of PR bullshit statements, but this is really alarming. I don't think it's Brian Johnson. I think it's really Nick. I think it's Nick's arrogance. I think it's Nick having too much control over everything. The Eagles have allowed it because we had a playoff game. They gave you want to if the Eagles have a playoff game and they clinch a playoff spot early, you want to give your head coach as much leeway as possible. This way, let him either drown, let him rise above and take this team to another level. And the Eagles have not played good the last 7 weeks. And I don't know what happened behind the scenes between the Bills to the 49ers game, but something really bad happened. And it's not good. So if Hurts is going up to the coaching staff and asking for change and Nick's like, nah, I'm going to run it the way I want to run it, I don't blame Jalen Hurts for playing bad at all. There's no hot routes, there's no slants, there's no nothing. I mean, you're getting blitzed the same way every week, and yet the middle of the field's wide open. You have nobody going to the middle. It's unheard of. It's unheard of how they're running things. So before you start pointing the finger at Jalen, and trust me, there's a finger that's pointed at Jalen, and that's fine because I'm pointing the finger at him too because he really didn't play well. But after really hearing this, it starts to really sum up what's going on, who has the control, and our quarterback has no say. Our roster has no say in anything. I mean, these are guys that get paid millions of dollars to play football and want to win so badly. And this is how you end our veterans' careers in Jason Kelce and Fletcher Cox, and that's how you want to send them off. That's how you want to end. I mean, it's obviously really disgusting. It's very disgusting. I'm sickened to death. I hope Howard Eskin is not right. I really hope there's a firing here. I don't care what Jay Glazer said before the Tampa Bay game. He was like, "Oh yeah, a rumor inside the organization. Even if they lose, Nick won't be fired." I think it's too late. They're playing uninspired football, and no free agent, nobody's gonna want to come here. Nobody's gonna want to play for this city. We're back to square one of nobody wanting to come here now because this head coach is fucking everything up. And Jeffrey Lurie, you better put your hands all over this because it's really important. Last two things I want to talk about. Obviously, Jason Kelce retires, man. I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. It is what it is, guys. Like, look, you kind of saw after the game where he hugged Stalin and he was very upset. And let him, he's got to move on with his life. Be with your wife, be with your kids. Be a family man and go do your thing. A first ballot Hall of Famer. He'll, be eligible for the Hall of Fame in 2029. A 6th-round pick and an undersized center that really changed and became an icon for this city for a lot of reasons. And not only a good person on the field, but a great player on the field, but a great person off the field. Done a lot for the community. Kelce being the quarterback of the offensive line is going to be obviously a big loss for the Eagles going to next year. I think Kelce will come back as an assistant coach to help Stalin and maybe help with the drafting process or maybe something like that. So that would be pretty cool. So as of right now, so what happens? If Kelce retires, what happens? Well, I think 100%, I don't think this is going to be another Landon Dickerson situation. I think Cam Jurgens will move to center. Guys, remember a year or two ago, I forgot if it was this past off season, where Kelce, I think it was 2 years ago, where Kelce had the orthoscopic elbow surgery, and Jurgens took over. Jurgens took over a lot of center his rookie year, in the offseason. So he's got a lot of steps there. I don't think he's going to stay at right guard. You got Tyler Steen right now. And Sua Opeta is a very good guard for us to play both guard spots very, very well. A very good backup that we're lucky to have. Obviously, you have to draft the right tackle. You have, Tyler Steen. That needs, he needs another offseason under his belt. Because I think there were some, promising things to see, but just needs more work. And, is not used to playing on the right side. I don't think he's used to being a right guard at this point. Has been mostly a left tackle when he was at Alabama. So I think there's a lot of good things to take out of that when it comes to center to guard. And I think we'll be fine. We're usually very good at, making sure the trenches are good, your protection. That's all that matters. And having good depth behind it. Lane Johnson's got to stay healthy. Looks like he'll play for another couple years from what was said yesterday. and he's furious at how the season went after going 10-1, losing losing 6 games, and he said, "I don't want to go through this ever again." So, when it comes to Jason Kelsey, I wish him the best of luck, and another hole, but not really. I think you know we're going to be very solid. We're usually drafting offensive line in the first 3 rounds of the draft. It just happens. So that's the farewell for Jason Kelsey. But not a farewell for Brandon Graham. Says he has a little bit more juice left in the tank, would come back next year for would be his 15th farewell tour. And kind of call it a day after one more year. He still believes that this team has a lot of talent and would come back. And unfortunately, I mean, he's got to come back on a really cheap deal. There's no way, if he thinks he's getting some top money on a 1 year deal, it's not going to happen. He's got to get veteran minimum at this point. Not a fantastic year for not really him, but a lot of this defensive line. I mean, Josh Sweat just had a sack in the fucking playoff game. He hadn't had a sack since week 9 of the season. That's how bad this defense is. I'm not blaming Brandon Graham or the rest of this defensive line, Jordan Davis, or really anybody else. This defensive line can't hit home. The rotation's been really bad. Nolan Smith needs another offseason. Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat have been in coverage yet again and again, game after game after game. You're putting your best pass rushers in pass coverage, and that's been a big no-no for me. Brandon Graham had the Achilles 2 years ago, had a double-digit sack season last year, had a really good year. But didn't have I don't know how many sacks he had this year, 3 to 5. I forgot how many he really had this year, but him coming back as a vet and, just his presence and his voice. And, we know what Brandon Graham does on the field. He's the biggest shit talker on our team defensively. And I think he brings excitement for the defensive line. He brings something else, an aura that I think a lot of players like. And I think he's a little bit of an energy builder for this defense. And I think would help the defensive line for one more year to bring him back. Still think they need to draft another trench guy on the edge. I still feel like they need to do that. So we'll see what happens with Brandon Graham. So it can't be for a lot of money. I mean, for a veteran minimum, I think they'll get something done. Brandon Graham mentioned a couple years back that he would never put on another uniform ever. He wants to be here for the rest of his career. So Brandon Graham being back would be great. Got to stay healthy, but I still feel like do not just re-sign Brandon Graham and not add more pieces to that edge. I feel like they still got to draft an edge guy, maybe somebody in the second or something like that. So, the Eagles have a first-round pick, 2 second-rounders. So there's a lot of things, there that could happen. But other than that, that's pretty much it. I mean, we kind of went through Nick Sirianni, all the rumors, and Jalen Hurts and some of the leaks that have been coming out between Jalen Hurts really trying to put his voice out there to the coaching staff to change this offense the way they're doing things. And the coaching staff has not listened to any of these players, hence why the Eagles lost this locker room. And so if this happened after the Bills game and they felt like, you know what, we still need to change some things, and the coaching staff wouldn't budge, I think there's going to be a lot more to it that happened behind the scenes that we're going to find out. Whether it's from players that leave after this year will tell the truth about the Eagles. So we'll see what happens. But like I said, don't be alarmed. This is going to be a rocky offseason. But I think with good decisions made, with a great offense, with great weapons still, a defense that just has to be tinkered around a little bit, and some harsh decisions are going to have to be made with some of these players, which we'll have a video on, I think good things will happen. I'm not just saying that. I think, I don't think this is a pure rebuild. Oh my God, I think you need a coach with a good resume that can control an offense and defense, that has good lock on their coaching staff, and Howie Roseman has to pull back some of his control. But I think Jeffrey Lurie is going to get his hands all over this and get to the bottom of everything. Because I mean, if Nick stays, I've had enough of Nick Sirianni, and I think this whole thing is done. So you guys let me know in the comment section what you guys think of the leaks, Kelce's retirement, BG coming back. The main problem, do you blame Jalen Hurts as much? There's a lot of fans that are just like, Jalen Hurts is trash, and I get it. He hasn't had a good year, but look what's been told. How is he supposed to get better in an offense? How, if they're not helping him on short routes, on quick plays, on he's just like, fuck it. If the coaches want me to do this, I'm going to make mistakes, and it's going to be on them. It's going to be on me, and I'll take the blame for it, but it's going to be on them at the end of the day behind closed doors. So other than that, guys, that's pretty much it. I'll see you guys on the next one. Chicks up, follow, so peace out, guys. Peace.